Don't think this is just another self-help podcast. It's not.
Well, what is it?
It's still a hot mess, where we ask the question, is self-help helping?
Every episode, we discuss, debate, and sometimes diss an aspect of the self-improvement movement.
We want to know, is it all too much? Has it gone too far? Is it making us even more neurotic? Is this self-help or self-help?
You make a mess of me.
No, it's great. When I hear the word coach or coaching, I think of a basketball coach, like a coach from when I was in high school.
From Sportsing.
From Sportsing.
Yeah.
So when I think have I had a coach? I've had a voice coach. I've had an acting coach. So along those lines. But that's not necessarily the coaching that you've had.
No, actually, I have worked alongside two marvelous coaches. A few years ago, I worked with a coach to kind of help me get unstuck. I was really creatively, artistically, I was flat and really feeling quite uninspired. And she helped tremendously with a lot of mindset stuff. And then I also worked with a brilliant coach who helped me kind of take my business to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah, I was ready to up my game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the idea of a coach, is when you want to up your game in whatever way.
Yeah, I think personally or professionally. Yeah. And so today,
What?
we are talking to that coach who helped me reach some very big goals and take my business to the next level. We are joined by executive coach and culture strategist, Celine Williams.
Wow. Hello, Celine.
Welcome to the show,
That's
Celine.
a cool title.
Thanks
Isn't
for having
it?
me.
Yeah. Say that again.
Executive coach and culture strategist, Celine Williams.
Cultural strategist. Okay, break it down.
I won't start with culture strategist, but
Okay.
I will touch on that after.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for the listeners who haven't
It's just
worked
such
with
an impressive title. I've never heard it
is.
before. I've never heard of cultural strategist.
to be
My
fair,
interest is piqued.
It is a title I made up
Even cooler.
because I work with, well, I'll talk about it now. So I work with businesses to help them develop and maintain and grow cultures that work for them inside their organization. So not like, here's what Apple is doing and let's just do what Apple is doing because their culture is great and we want a ping pong table. Not that. But it's part and parcel of coaching and is to help them design the strategy, the culture that works for them. So because I run my own business, I got to call myself a culture strategist because it sounds cooler than anything else I could come up with.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love the ping pong table, though. I do. I love the ping pong table. I'd like a slide.
Yeah.
I'd like some monkey bars.
Well, you got me a ping pong table for my loft.
I made that happen.
In
all
a
by
day.
myself.
And I just sat around one day and I'm like, what would be cool is to have a ping pong table here because
Yeah.
it is a massive space. And then hours later, you're talking to someone on Facebook. It's there the
I was
next
like,
day.
I've got you a table. I've got the movers.
It's hilarious.
We can get it in your place in the next half hour.
So when she says she's into ping pong tables,
Yeah.
she's not lying.
I'm not lying.
Anyway,
love it.
Celine, for the listeners who haven't worked with a coach or don't know, really what it's all about, let's start by having you define your profession. What is coaching?
I'm going to say it's really interesting to be like, I'm going to speak for everyone who coaches right now. So to anyone who might coach and doesn't agree with this, sorry.
You do you.
That's right. This is my definition of it. So I actually think what you guys were talking about is really accurate, right? It's about helping people get from where they are to where they want to be to get to that next goal. So it is kind of looking at what's going on in the present and what's working for them and how things are going, identifying those goals, making sure they're the right goals, because we often go, I have an aspirational goal and that's my goal. And we don't think about if that is really what we want, if that's aligned with who we are, if that's even realistic. I can be like, I want to be a billionaire in 2021. That might not be a achievable goal for me in
Well, you
2021.
could manifest on that.
Well, we might be talking about manifesting with Celine later on because she is kind of into it.
Right. Well, Celine, have you always been a goal setter? Like when you were a kid, were you making lists and checking off?
I make a lot of lists, but I also have ADHD. So I make a lot of lists and then lose every one of them. I lose them. I make a list and then I'm like,
That's fine.
great,
That
it's on a
defeats
list.
the purpose.
And then I make another list. So I make a lot of lists. I've not always been great at setting goals because of that. And
Okay.
I'm really transparent about it because goal setting, how we think of it traditionally, like there's one right way to do it. I don't think that's real. And I kind of hate that because we're all different and we all think differently. And it's really unfair for people like me who are like, I don't set goals in that way, but I know what I want and I can see where that is. And I can see the backward steps to get there for myself without having it be like this list of formal goals.
Okay.
So it's often more of a feeling or like, I want to feel this way and be having this type of life as opposed to here's my number goal. And other people work that way and that's great, but it's different for everyone.
Okay. So you could work in very specific ways and you can work a little more abstract, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was going over, I was looking up coaching basically, and there's life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, career coaching, leadership coaching, internal coaching. I don't know what that means.
Sounds dirty.
But so I'm sure there's probably more to that list, but even just starting there. So basically you could have a coach for anything.
You can. There are people specialize in very different areas in coaching, and sometimes it's based on experiences that they've had. So there are, caveat here, one of the challenges inside of the world of coaching is that anyone can call themselves a coach. So there is an institution, the International Coach Federation, that does certify coaches. They approve training programs. So you have to go through training. You have to do a certain number of hours of coaching. I know this because I've done it in order to call yourself a coach and be part of the ICF.
So you need that, but you don't need that.
That's right. But they're not a licensed professional like a psychotherapist is, so that technically that federation exists, and ideally you want someone, in my opinion, and I am biased because I have the training, you ideally want someone who has done so. I don't care if they're accredited. I don't care if they have letters after their name that says I have done this, but that has some of the training associated with it, because there are specific modalities to coaching like there are to psychotherapy. However, there is no one body that licenses coaches. So the challenge is that there's lots of life and business coaches, especially life and business coaches, that have no training, that have no clue what coaching really is, and are basically trainers or teachers who call themselves coaches. So they have come through a divorce on the other side, and they are happy with their life, and they're empowering women through divorce.
Oh, welcome to self-help books.
Sounds like Rachel Hollis
sounds like
to me.
a whole bunch of them to me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So how are coaches held accountable then?
Well, they're not if they're not part of the ICF.
Okay, so it's up to the individual who's going to hire a coach to look into that themselves.
Correct. And if anyone is looking to hire a coach, and I'm not saying, there are some great coaches who don't have certification. So
how do you know that?
Use your discretion. How do I know that they're great coaches, or how would someone else go?
No. How do you know there are great coaches who don't have the certification?
So I'll give you an example. I have worked with myself, a coach who is a life spiritual coach, if you sort of in that vein, if you want, who doesn't have any certification. She has done some coach training courses here and there, but nothing that is the full program, because it's I think it's 185 hours of training for the first level of
but you're dealing with people's lives. I mean, I think putting a little time in might be par for the course.
I agree. And so this woman who I'm talking about doesn't have specific coach training. She has done courses without the full 185 hours in one course. She has studied different modalities. And before I worked with her, I asked her about all of this. And so she was able to say, look, I'm not part of the ICF. Here's why. Here's all the different teachings and trainings that I have taken. And here's how I bring them together. And for me, I was like, okay, you're not someone who has just done something and is now like, hey, I'm a coach in this thing. You're actually someone who has pulled together different aspects to do what you do. And I can respect that. I can get behind someone who has done that. Rather than someone who's like, well, I went through a divorce and came out. I'm picking on divorce for some reason. It's terrible. But that's just my example.
Well, divorce can be terrible.
Right. That too.
Or it can be excellent.
Can it?
Yeah.
It can.
Depends on which side you're on.
It's all good.
No, but even that though, when you say, because even with experts, there's many times I'm like, just because someone claims to be an expert or has the certification, or in whatever field.
Yep.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're right for you or that they do know everything.
Absolutely.
Like, you want someone actively in their field of study or in their profession, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I have a really good friend who's a psychologist who's phenomenal in many, many ways. And we've had this conversation, and she's like, there are some real crappy, I was going to swear. I'm not going to swear.
Oh, no, you can.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh.
It's messy over here.
Oh, it's real messy
Okay,
here,
great.
Celine.
So I like it.
Have at her.
We've talked
Someone's
about
got to
this.
break the seal.
That's true.
Welcome.
Yes.
And she's like, there's some real shit psychologists out there who have tons of training
Yeah.
and they're terrible at their job.
Sure.
And they are doing it because they wanted the doctor in front of their name or
Yep.
whatever the case may be. And they don't give a shit about people and they don't actually understand people and they want
Yep.
one outcome and they're focused on this. And she's like, they're worse than someone who has some experience and has gotten to a certain place. So she's like, you have to, and I would say the same with coaches, right? There are some great coaches out there without the training, and there are some shit coaches out there without the training. So it really is, if you're looking to work with someone, talk to them. Who are they? How are they showing up? Do they have one way of doing something that they're just going to make you do? That's probably not what you're looking for unless you're just looking for training. Do they have the education? Do they continue to educate themselves? What kind of people
Yes.
are they working with? Are they just working with one person, the same type of person over and over again? They might not be for you if that's not what you're doing, what your business is, what your leadership role is. But it's due diligence is really important.
It's like finding a therapist, right? Like
think-
it's like trying on jeans. You're like, this one, nope.
It's
not
about
a
as
fit.
individuals,
Sure.
that we take responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on this podcast, we often talk about, with self-help, be discerning as well about
Yes.
what you're consuming and whether or not it actually works for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you say you're an executive coach.
Yeah.
How is that different from a life coach? Because we hear the life coach term so much, and so how would you say you are different?
especially in self-help. I would say that
sure.
in the world of self-help, you have a lot more people who call themselves life coaches or who dabble in that area than anything else.
Well, and there's a belief out there that life coaching is like hokey.
Right.
You're obviously
Yep.
very aware of that.
100%.
So
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of that comes from the people who have no training and who are, doing a thing or are cheerleading, right? There's people who are like, I'm really good at getting you excited about your life, so I'm now a life coach because I'm going to get you real excited about something. Cool. What is the point of that? That's
Right.
a cheerleader. I don't
Okay.
necessarily me personally, I don't want to hire a cheerleader. Good on you if that's your jam. It's not mine.
a cheerleader is not necessarily going to get you to your goals.
Not really.
But you're going to have a lot of fun.
That's right. You're going to feel like someone is in your corner.
Yeah.
So I would say that the difference between a life coach and an executive coach is, one, the people I work with tend to be in leadership positions. They tend to be running businesses. They're high-level entrepreneurs, but a lot of them are in bigger organizations at this point. I haven't always worked with people who were at that level. A lot of that is the case now. Part of that is I worked in corporate for 11 years. I speak that language, but I also work with very entrepreneurial leaders. And so I also do like business coaching with a few individual entrepreneurs. So I understand the entrepreneurial world to help them apply it in their roles and in their teams. So
Okay.
executive coaching tends to be specific business communication relationship issues at a particular level of an organization where you are leading lots of people. You have a lot of responsibility in a certain way, but you have a lot less control at the executive level than you think you're going to have. We all have this illusion that you're going to be president of a company and you have all the control. You have so little control. You have so little control, and it's all about influencing and communication and relationships. And so communication relationships is kind of my jam at the executive level. So I do a lot of work with teams and executives at that stage. Life coaching, so it is goal setting, and a lot of it's also in the moment personal development goals, like I want to be a better communicator in this way. So it's a little bit softer goals than a business coach who tends to work with things like, I want to hit $150,000 at the end of this year. I want my book published. I want whatever it is. And you help them set those goals, keep them accountable, figure out what's holding them back from that. And then life coaching, I'm putting into 3 categories. There's more, but I'm really very simple. Life coaching tends to be more personal goals. Like I want to have a better relationship with my husband. I want to feel more full. I want to figure out what my joy is. I want to
Follow my bliss.
Right, follow my bliss.
Is this, do you hear that very often? And are there a lot of the same blocks that you're discovering with people who sort of reach out?
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of, I would say, look, at the end of the day, most of us have some programming from childhood that breaks down to a few really specific beliefs that we have. I'm not a therapist.
I think you're onto something here.
Right? I'm not a therapist. I don't go like, okay, let's go see where it came from your mom and dad and where that came. That's not what I do. But those show up as patterns in adulthood that hold us back from getting to where we want to go.
Yes.
And so helping them identify the pattern, and we will often talk about like, here's the belief it's coming from. You might need to go figure out the root of it in your childhood.
Go do that over there.
Right? And sometimes it comes up in very like, oh, I figured this out, or I think it's from, oh, I can totally see this pattern, but we don't get into it the way you would with a therapist. It's really more like, here's the pattern. How do we change this? What does it look like when this pattern doesn't exist? Where else do you see this showing up so we can rewire that circuit that brings you up and down that same neural network over and over and over again?
So you've worked with Susan.
I have.
How'd that go?
I mean, you'd have to ask Susan
Highlight
that
of your
question.
career, hey, Celine?
Well, you guys could, answer together. How did it go? How did it go? How did it work?
Well, like I said,
What were the blocks?
I was at a point where my career was starting to repeat itself every year. Like it was good. I just felt like I just had more potential, like to play bigger, and I didn't know how the hell to do that. And so I teamed up with Celine, and it was so cool. Of course, you did challenge me on some limited thinking and all that kind of thing. But you know what? It was really cool. You were like a police to me. You are the accountability police. So you would sit with me and we would make the goals and we'd break it down into a timeline or, some steps. And so I had about 2 weeks to go and do the things that
You didn't want to get your ass kicked.
Yeah, it really, I was making promises to someone.
Yeah.
Of course, someone in my corner. And God, like it was very motivating to know that I was going to be seeing Celine in X number of days. And so it was that extra push.
Yeah.
That motivation to, keep my promises and follow through on these ideas and these goals. So thanks to Celine, my business definitely got bigger.
And have you been able to continue that way of thinking and setting goals and doing it for yourself?
I would say that the reason that I would say ended our working relationship is because I wanted to take that money and invest it in other parts of my business. Right? You only had so much money to invest, so I was like, okay, I got to go and now take that and put it over there for a while. But I would say now, as we are in this pandemic, and the speaking industry has completely
Burned up,
gone sideways, and of course I'm pivoting. Anyway, I have had the thought it's time to get some coaching again soon.
Right.
I don't know where to go from here.
Well, speaking of money, what does it cost to work with a life coach or an executive coach, or how would you like to break it down?
So full disclosure, I don't 100% know the pricing for life coaching because it's not something I've done as an area of specialty. I think life coaching is on the less expensive side of things, and saying this, there's always people who are going to charge a lot more. But generally speaking, I think it's around $100 to $250 an hour.
That's a big spread.
Yep. Yep. And people do packages, right? So there's people who will say like for 6 months, it's X amount of money. And then you're committed to a 6-month package or program with them. And that's really common, especially in the online space. So there's coaches that really kind of market and specialize in Facebook marketing or online space. And they tend to do a lot of packages because it's immediate money to them and they can set their time differently. I would say business and executive coaching is a little bit more on par price-wise, but executive coaching is definitely at the higher end. So.
Celine's an arm and a leg.
Like, so
I tell you.
What's an arm and a leg cost these days?
Honest to God.
I would say business coaching, depending on the person's experience, where they're located, how much access you have to them is anywhere from $250 to about $1,000 an hour for business coaching. There's some, and it can go above that, but I think that's a pretty solid range.
So $1,000 an hour, what are you going to get? What's the situation?
I mean,
She does take her top off.
Right.
Yeah,
It's nice.
That's how it works.
Yeah. No, it's very nice. I appreciate that.
Serenade people for $1,000 an
Okay.
hour. Yeah, as
Yeah.
often as possible.
Yeah. Anything involving ping pong balls?
I mean, it's not on the table yet, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be.
It's where they belong.
So the people that charge for business coaching $1,000 an hour, and I don't charge $1,000 an hour for business coaching myself. I tend to work with entrepreneurs who are doing well, but are looking to get to the next level. And I would not feel good charging an entrepreneur $1,000 an hour. And that's a me thing. It doesn't mean that it's wrong for other people. And there's lots of entrepreneurs who are like, the Elon Musk. If you charge him $1,000 an hour, you do. That is awesome. I would not feel bad about that either.
Okay,
right?
that's what I was going to say. Like, if you knew somebody was just dripping in it, would you be like, maybe
Yeah, I think that
we've got a special this week?
right. I think
It's double the cost.
So I think there's some leeway inside of that. And I would say and I will say this, and I will answer your question about like what you get for that. For executive coaching, there are people who charge $250 or $350 an hour. Most executive coaching is between $500 and $1,500 an hour. And you usually get 2 to 4 sessions a month. And so it's then packaged up monthly, generally speaking. For what you get for the $1,000 an hour or $150 an hour or whatever it is, it depends on the person who's doing the coaching, and it depends on the goals of the person who's involved. So it is a lot of, the client's
Tailoring.
It's very tailored. My 2 cents is that the more tailored it is to the person, the more value it is, which is why I don't mind charging what I charge, because it's very tailored to each. I work with entire teams of executives where I'm coaching 10 people on the same team, and they each have a very different experience from me because it works for them, and they all have great experience. And they'll tell, whoever the president of the company, they're like, this is all working really well, but it's really different. So it's very tailored. That's the challenge.
How did you know you were meant to be a coach? How did you know you were going to be good at it?
I didn't know I was going to be good at it.
And did you ever imagine yourself working with 10 executives and sorting them out?
Nope. I love people and I love their brains. I love figuring out how people think and helping them reframe, which is a word that, I like to use
very
a lot.
coachy
That's right.
word.
That's right. I like to help them reframe their thinking. And a lot of it comes from helping them break down assumptions that they have or how we operate automatically in the world. I'm really against all of that because I think it is a big thing that holds us back. So when I started university, thought I was going to go into psychology. That did not happen. Turns out it's a science course. Not a sciencey person. So didn't do that. But I did sociology, which is like groups of people. And then, ran a tutoring company, worked in corporate for a while. When I was in corporate, I discovered coaching from having a coach. And then was like, I want to take some courses because the communication skills at that point was what I was interested in. The ability to ask good questions and remain present and listen. And I was like, these are great communication skills. And it was massively improving my emotional intelligence. And I was like,
right.
Okay, I'm into this. And then from there is how I was like, okay, I can do something with this. I have a really good foundation in this. It was something that I was naturally leaning into well. And then I just, experimented, and it didn't always work. And I've
experimented with friends or family.
100% with people at like $20 an hour, a guy who works at Disney for $20 an hour. I was like, can you just be my guinea pig? So you have some skin in the game.
And you were already looking at corporate versus
I was looking
just regular life coaching.
I was not life coaching was never for me. So life coaches, this is a broad generalization. I'm not saying this is the truth. Tend to have a softer touch with people than I do.
Okay.
I'm quite direct. I will challenge people quite directly. I'm okay making someone get uncomfortable in their thinking. I'm pointing at Susan.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
hard.
Like
Paul.
it is.
Yeah,
But I'm okay, forcing someone, not forcing, but encouraging them.
It's tough love.
It was a couple of times she pinned me to the ground, but
And
it was exciting.
and
with her top off. I mean, where are we
Listen,
going
our
with this
relationship
today?
was very complex, okay? But we got shit done.
here we go.
I love how you're talking about like saying things like reframing.
Oh, yes.
Have you ever said anything like, how can you better honor you?
Oh, yeah,
Or
I've
I'm
said
just
that.
going to hold this space for you.
I have not said those two in particular, not to someone. I do talk about holding space in general, though. So that one, well, it's like adjacent.
Do you ever say, tell me if this resonates with you?
All the time.
All the time. Okay.
Let's think of another one.
Yeah.
Or do you ever say what I am hearing from you right now? Like, do you like to kind of hold up the mirror for?
Yes.
Yeah.
I usually phrase it as, okay, I want to check my understanding of this.
I thought you were going to say
that's good.
underwear. I'm going to check my underwear.
I
would've
love
been
that.
like, all right.
I'm going to check my understanding. What are some others just off the top of your head that you have in your coach vocabulary? Like, give us some, either your favorite words or your favorite phrases, or.
So I have two phrases that anyone who works with me who listens to this is going to die laughing because I get made fun of for it all the time by my clients. One of them is, anything that you say, I will be like, yes. And they're always like, oh my God, that is like, it's like an improv coaching combination.
Are you challenging people to get rid of the butts?
Well, it's part of that. And it's also what it usually is. Here's my secret is what it is it's not only getting rid of the butts, but it is acknowledging, like, I hear what you're saying. And now I'm going to tell you something that's totally different to it that you're not expecting, but I'm doing it in a way where you're open to it and you're not going to get defensive.
Oh, so you really prolong the and.
Oh yeah. And. Oh yeah. So that's.
Okay.
Do you ever, when someone sort of tells you their situation or tries to explain their block or whatever to you, do you repeat it back to them? Do you ever use that practice where you're like, let me tell you what I'm hearing, and then just so you're clear, or do you not need to do that?
I do. So I take notes on all my calls. Not every coach does this. I take notes, and I take notes using their specific language.
Yeah. Why would someone not take notes? Like, that's all the gold right there.
For me, it's a non-negotiable in a coaching call. I don't care if it's like on my phone. I have to take notes to capture the language, because that's what I'll repeat back for two reasons. One, they can hear their own language. But two, if I'm offering something that is challenging to them, which is definitely going to happen at some point, when I frame it in their own language, again, they don't get defensive because they're hearing it in words that they use anyways.
This is why Donald Trump has the base that he has. Anyway.
Looking back on your coaching career, what kinds of big changes or shifts have resulted in people being successful? Like, what would you say? Like, you've had many clients, but what has someone or a few people done that has just catapulted them to that big goal or made the dream happen?
Where you were like, wow, like never saw that coming.
Yeah. What kind of big, changes or shifts?
That is very specific.
Yeah.
That's a really specific. So I'm going to say.
Just answer some other question.
No. Okay.
It's fine.
Great.
Yeah. Let's make up another one.
No, you're challenging her. This is good.
What I'm hearing
Celine,
from
what's
you,
it feel
Celine.
like?
Okay. Let's reframe.
So
Give her a second. She's got it.
I was going to say the other thing that I always say is, can I get a little context? Can I get a little bit more context on that, please?
Asking a question with a question.
Okay. No. Let's reframe. Oh, you've had some clients who have then ended up to be successful thanks to your work with them. So what happened? Was there any big changes you saw or any shifts in their mindset or habits that then led to that success?
So first and foremost, they are successful because of themselves, not because of me. So I do want to note that, because it is, I hold the space for them.
You sure do.
I actually do the work.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to bring in as many of the phrases that we talked about in the.
I love it.
That's a good game. How many coaching words and phrases can you say for the remainder of this episode?
Let's get you playing a bigger game.
That's right. This is what it's going to be. So, the consistent block that people have, or it's not a block, the consistent thing that shifts for people is when they actually have awareness of a blind spot they didn't know before. And that is the thing, watching someone in the moment realize that they have a blind spot about something. I was working with someone about 6 months ago who was convinced that they were a phenomenal communicator. And that was their thing. It was a big piece of their identity. They were like, I get feedback. I'm a great communicator. People love me. They really appreciate how I communicate all the time. This is an ongoing positive thing. that was a blind spot for that person because they were not a clear communicator at all. They didn't understand, and a lot of people who think they're good communicators, by the way, they fall into this trap, but they didn't think about their audience. They're a clear communicator for them because they're in their head with all the information and context. They are not a clear communicator or precise communicator for everyone outside of them. And that moment of realizing, oh, hang on, this didn't actually land the way I thought it was going to, or maybe this isn't right, and shifted all the work they were doing. It shifted how they were showing it, how they prepared for things. They were now getting invited into different meetings. They were getting invited into their opinions started mattering more. And so it changed the bonus they got from work. Like they got all these results from that aha moment. Let's throw it in there.
Oh, there it is.
It's a little Oprah for Fanson.
It's fun.
Well, as we say in comedy, right? You got to read the room.
Yeah.
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 And so that was the blind spot. That's cool.
And I say that just as an example because people's blind spots are different, right? Like sometimes it can be a blind spot that is from the experience they've had with someone or people have had with them in the past. That's not who they are anymore. And they are I'm judging myself from who I am today. I'm not judging myself from who I was 10 years ago. So someone who hasn't seen me in 10 years ago or has that experience as like the cemented experience in their brain, when they interact with me, they're judging me from there. So when you start to realize the blind spots you have and other people's experiences and how to overcome or realign or reframe or, as many as possible.
Blind spot meaning something we can't see about ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any horror stories? Why'd you look at Susan?
Besides working with me. Yeah.
Susan was and still is my favorite client ever. Hopefully none of my other clients are listening to this.
Good answer, Celine. We did have fun, hey?
We did. Yeah.
Good times.
And I like to laugh I like to have fun with my clients. To me, it's not all serious. Like there has to be laughing and connecting and that's part of it because if you're trusting me with your stuff and it's all confidential, right? Like again, ICF, one of the great things, it's totally confidential. There are very strict rules in place about that. So
rules like there would be in doctor-patient confidential? Yeah.
Yes. So if I as someone who's part of the ICF, there's a code of ethics that I agree to. And if I break that code of ethics, I am held liable in a different way because I am agreeing to it to be confidential.
Well, it's important that 100%. Exists. And then I just think, well, that's one of the reasons not to work with someone who isn't certified because they haven't signed that contract.
Yeah. Again, which is why, for the most part, I am very much a proponent of people who have that accreditation or have been who are part of the ICF, right? And so, yes, I will say what I was going to say, which is like when you're trusting me with that, it's really important that we are also having fun and you feel safe. And if we're not having fun in some way, you're not going to feel safe because it feels like a very formal arrangement. And to answer your question from before, yes, I have had some horror stories. I have worked with some people who were just I don't like the term not coachable, but they were not coachable. And also I've worked with someone who misrepresented a lot of information and there was a lot of lying involved and a lot of deception.
How long did it take you to sort of figure that out?
I took about 4 months with that person.
And then, geez.
Yeah.
Wow.
And were they just a brilliant liar?
Yes.
And obviously you fired them?
Yes. I do not work with them anymore.
No.
Yeah. That as soon as I found out, I was like, I'm done. Like he was my highest paying client at that time as well, significantly more than anyone else had ever paid me. And I was like, which is the only reason, like,
too good to be true. What's going on?
Yeah. Only reason I lasted the 4 months was because I was like, this can't, he's paying me so much money. This doesn't make any sense. No, it was, it was a disaster. And as soon as I realized it, I was like, I can't, this is not in alignment with who I am or who I want to work with. And that matters. How
do you know if you're being lied to or if someone's lying to themselves? Like, is that just something you figure out along the way because of the language they use?
Yes. Sometimes that's definitely the case. The inconsistent stories. If they're lying to you, it's a little bit easier, right? Inconsistent stories, things not adding up or making sense, jumping around in terms of what they're talking about or what they want to focus on, things like that. I now can see very clearly as an indicator of that sort of thing. Lying to themselves is a little bit more difficult because one of the reasons that I work with so many executive teams right now is because I get different perspectives from different people to actually be able to check some of the stories.
Right.
So it helps me help them relate better and call people on a story that they have about themselves that they're not seeing. But generally speaking, like if I'm working with Susan, the only information I'm getting is from Susan. So if Susan is lying to herself, it is a longer process for me to figure out or help her figure that out because I don't have anyone else around to check the information I'm getting. So I can only coach people based on what they bring forward. And that's a really important thing to remember. Your coach is not going to solve all your problems.
They're not psychic.
That's right. They're not psychic. They're not going to solve all your problems. It's not, if you don't bring forward good information, if you don't bring forward what's really going on, if you're not willing to do that work in terms of even let's get into that conversation, your coach is not suddenly going to solve all the problems based on what? They're only dealing with what you tell them. So it's really important to be comfortable with the coach, feel like you have that trusting relationship, and get into that stuff. That's how you make the changes.
What's the initial conversation you have with somebody to sort of set those parameters, or maybe they're not parameters, but let them know this is how we're going to work?
So I always do the initial call I do is just very much an intro call. You tell me high level who you are, what you're looking to get out of this, what you're working on. You know, very sort of high level intro. I tell you a little bit about myself. I will tell people, I usually email people rates. So I'm not a pressure, email people rates. You can think about it, get back to me. If you decide you want to work with me, the first call that we have is very much, here's how all this works. Here's how the confidentiality works. The only way it's not confidential is if you are a threat to yourself or someone else, because that's also true of any,
Yeah.
if you're talking about threatening someone, we're going to have a different conversation. But, you know, and I say, like, it will take 2 to 3 months for you to get fully comfortable and to trust me. And that's normal. And part of this is a process, right? So, you know, generally I work with people, there's a minimum amount of time, and that's 4 months. And the reason being, unless they're coming back, right? It's a different story. But if I don't know them, because for the first 2 to 3 months, you're not comfortable yet. And it's okay. Right. And you're going to test things out, and I will call you on things that'll be uncomfortable. And all of that is perfect. And I let them ask any questions they have. You can, you can ask me any question anyway, but that first is really like, if you're uncertain, if you're nervous about anything in that first call, and any good coach should leave you space to ask those questions. It doesn't make a difference how uncomfortable they get, because it's about the client being comfortable.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned people being uncoachable, and I find that fascinating. What makes someone uncoachable?
Oh, if you think that your way is the right way, you are uncoachable.
And they just don't bend.
Yeah.
Right.
Because here's the and this is my bias because I talk about it all the time. I do not believe that there is right and wrong. I think there are different things that work for different people in different circumstances.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's a right or wrong. So if you come in and you're like, this is the way, and someone told me this, or this is what works for me, and this is the right way, and it's the only way, you're not coachable. You want someone to validate what you already think. If you're looking for confirmation bias, there are, I'm sure, coaches out there. I'm sure there are people out there who will give that to you. I am not that person, and that person to me is uncoachable. If you're not willing to listen and grow,
got it.
I'm not into it.
Fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Yes.
If I could just
is that
drop
it?
that little self-help book.
She's obsessed over the fixed and growth mindsets these days.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's, I loved that book.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a matter of being open.
Yes.
To new ways of being, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing. Yeah. And so it's being open or closed, basically.
I think what you're saying about fixed and growth mindset, that's a big piece of it. If you have a fixed, and we all have some fixed mindset, we all have some growth mindset. No one is one of all or one of the other.
Do you have a fixed mindset about something?
100%.
What is it?
Tell us.
Okay, I'll give you, I actually have talked about this on stage before. I 100% believe that I can't sing.
Okay.
I have a very fixed mindset about that.
Isn't that a thing though? Like some people just can't.
No.
Like tone deaf.
I worry more about the people who think they can. And they can't.
Yeah.
So unless you are tone deaf, because there are people who like that. Yeah. I am not tone deaf. I unfortunately used to play piano and have perfect pitch for hearing other things. I just can't do it for myself. And I had a friend who was an opera singer who proved me wrong in my 20s. Not with me, with someone else who couldn't sing. And she was literally like, see how stupid you are? If he can learn to sing, so can you.
And
I was
so
like,
do you still have that fixed mindset about it?
listen, I have a fixed mindset in the sense that I can appreciate that other people learned how to sing and it worked for them, and I have not done anything about it. So clearly, I don't actually think it applies to me.
Right.
Yeah, so
okay.
totally.
So that's fixed.
Yeah, definitely have a fixed mindset about that. And I'm aware of it, and I think that's like 5% of the battle, so I'm giving myself a little bit of credit. But yeah, there's tons of stuff I have a fixed, and I find stuff all the time where I don't think about it, where I'm like, oh, I have a fixed mindset about how this works, how I'm supposed to do this, how, the day, whatever. It can be like how I cook this. This is my fixed mind because I'm not open to anything else. So all the time, we all have it. No one is exempt.
I think in some ways, a fixed mindset in certain situations or whatever could be beneficial.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like wrong or bad across the board. I think it depends what we're talking about. Some things might need to be fixed. It's not necessarily all about being open and with the flow of everything. There may be categories where it's like, no, that's the way that is. I think in society, some things there are rules, there are parameters, whatever. And are those healthy in a fixed way? I don't know.
I'm just trying to think of something that would be good.
I don't think it would be okay. I believe
fixed mindset
it would be
good.
a bad move to murder somebody.
Oh.
I'm pretty fixed there.
Okay, I get where you're going.
I think I'll keep that fixed.
When it comes to violence.
I don't think I need to have like a growth mindset in terms of that
terrorism.
idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
you don't
saying,
need to work on
I
your
don't need to up my game.
murdering.
I don't need a bigger game in there. But
you just stay where you are, Fancy.
right.
It's all good.
So, but that's all I'm
okay,
saying.
I'm glad
is
you.
like,
Okay, I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah,
That's good.
But I mean, and it could be in other smaller areas as
Yeah.
well, where a fixed mindset may not be across the board wrong
Yeah.
or inappropriate or whatever. And I say that with a real growth mindset. You know what I'm saying?
We're getting close to having a drinking game
I'm
here.
you got I'm meta feeling
You got
my
some meta
growth
feelings
mindset
there.
stuff.
So are you really good at like just calling your own bullshit out? Like you'll start saying something and you'll be like, oh, Celine, that's such a fixed mindset right there. Or you're being...
Basically, do you ever struggle with fear or self-doubt?
Yeah.
Are you a hot mess?
Are you
always
a hot mess?
Every single day of my life, proudly so.
Right on.
Right on.
You can still be a hot mess and be good at calling yourself out on shit because
Absolutely.
I am good at I'm not perfect at it. I am good at it to an annoying point that when I've worked with coaches and therapists before, they're like, I'm not going to tell you anything that you haven't already thought about before. Like I get that with everyone because I am very introspective and I am good at calling myself out on it. I'm not always good at doing anything differently about it because I am still human and I am a hot mess. So I might be aware of something and double down and be like, no, I'm going to keep doing that because it's comfortable or whatever bullshit's
Like,
in my head.
do you have a coach right now where you can bring your bullshit to them and work it out?
Yes.
I guess every coach should. Sorry
I
to
think
should
so.
myself over here, but should have
You
a
did it.
coach.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah, like a therapist needs their own therapist.
Yeah, I do think that.
Yep. I'd agree with that.
I think to be human is being a hot mess.
Yes.
Really. I mean, unless you've got so much rigidity and self-regulation, which is not typically the human's, greatest strength, guys, right?
And what's the alternative? To be perfect, which is super boring.
I don't even know what that is.
Super
I
boring.
don't even know what that means. Aren't we all perfect the way we are?
Well, yes, individually, but like, what's the opposite of hot?
What is the
that look
idea
like?
of perfect?
Yeah.
You make a very good point. I don't want to hang out with someone who's got it all together. That's not very fun, is it?
No.
Are you very compassionate with yourself when you meet up with your hot mess self?
I have learned to be. I haven't always been. But I've definitely learned to be, and that's part of the process that I've gone through in therapy and with coaches is to, so most people, this is like, I don't even know where this came from. This is not, it might have been Brene Brown. But
You just said her name.
We love her.
It might have been her. If it's not her, I'm so sorry, Brene, if I'm attributing this to you and you think
look
it's
up like
terrible. I know, like she's gone.
she's
looking
left
down
us.
on
She's
me.
everywhere.
Or yeah, she's omnipotent at this point.
Yes, that's how I see her. But there's a concept out there that people tend to either shame or guilt themselves. It's not the only thing, but like when things happen that go wrong, we shame or we shame ourselves or we feel guilt. So I've always...
This is Brene Brown.
Okay, thank God. Okay, thank Brene.
You're identified.
On point. So I've always been a person that I tend towards the guilt more than the shame.
Can you define for our listeners the difference?
Right.
Between?
So guilt is I did a bad thing. Shame is I am a bad person.
Perfect. You nailed it.
Yeah. So I tend more towards the guilt. So it took me, this is going to sound weird, but it actually took me longer to figure out how to call myself on my bullshit, because a lot of it ends, we know how to do it from shame, or we see more of it coming from that shame place. Like, you're not a bad person. And I was like, I don't think I'm a bad person. I was stuck in the guilt. Now, because of the processes I've gone through and the training I've had and the people I've worked with, I am much better at letting it go, right? Like not leaning into that and staying in that and being like, okay, I made that mistake. That thing happened. That's cool. What am I going to do differently next time? What have I learned? So I very quickly now can reframe that. To
So you
jump
can coach
into
yourself.
to a learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Liz Gilbert says, that was a good guess.
Yeah.
We were talking about that on the drive here.
Yeah.
That Liz Gilbert, one of our favorite self-help. Well, she's just kind of an accidental self-help author at this point.
One of my favorite humans.
Yeah.
Is how I.
Oh, I honestly, I would put Liz Gilbert in the top 5 people
Yes.
I would like to meet in this world.
Yep.
And so she was on a podcast, Rachel Hollis's podcast.
Oh, really?
And she was talking about, the mistakes she's made in her life. And so she's reframed them as, well, good guesses.
Yeah.
That was a really good guess.
Yeah.
And she says it in her soothing voice.
Like that one.
So while we're on this self-help train, Celine, why don't you maybe share with us, like, are you into self-help? Would you consider yourself a junkie? I don't know. Like, do you read the books?
I read some of the books.
Which ones?
I mean, I have seen the bookshelf in the office.
Yeah. It's intense. Listen, I have a lot of books. They're not all self-help books.
Are a lot of them self-help books?
I have a lot of business and leadership books and self-help books kind of grouped together.
Okay.
So there's a few of them.
Have you used any self-help books for your personal growth?
So I will say that I'm going to call this a self-help book, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong on this. That's totally
You
fine.
just sounded like Brene Brown there,
Yeah.
y'all.
The book that I think changed how I think about things dramatically and how I approach life, which is why I would call it a self-help book, is The 4 Agreements.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I don't know if that's the self-help books that, let's say, I'm here criticizing. I think I've become quite specific about the ones that I don't agree with. I don't consider that a self-help book in that way, but I do think it's a spiritual practice book, that kind of thing. But I don't know if there's a proper term for it.
There's definitely a very specific genre of self-help that I would put into a very spiritual category.
Yeah.
And then there's more of the, I don't know, just more of the mainstream. You got your what do you call it? What is it when it's about their life? What's the word?
Memoir.
Memoir.
Those are the ones that I
we've
just
got that
make me
genre.
nauseous.
Then we've got the mindfulness genre where we're careful with our words and our thoughts. And so there's definitely a separation there. So do you have any?
So I would
faves.
Does The Secret count as? I mean, listen, I'm not going to say it's.
Look at Fancy.
Hang on.
Look at your eyes.
What just happened to me?
Yeah, you just looked honestly, it's like a taser.
So this
a taser
is great
gun.
because I'm going to
tell us,
compliment
Celine.
it and then criticize it all in one.
We love
That's
that.
how I roll.
Let's do it.
So I read The Secret in my mid-20s, so just a few years ago.
Right.
That was at a time when I really needed to read some of the things that were in that book, and I needed a different perspective and shift. And I was really stuck in stuff. And that book definitely helped me reframe and rethink a number of things at the time. And
you saw the results.
I saw the results in how I was thinking. It's not like suddenly my life changed dramatically and I had $1 million in the bank. Like that would have been nice. That wasn't the reality. But I definitely saw the results in how I was thinking. And it was one of the things besides the 4 Agreements, which hands down was like a game changer for me. I can't recommend that book enough. But it was something that helped me realize how much of my thoughts and how much of my time was spent beating myself up, because that's the guilt, right? Like, it was guilty beating myself up for the stuff that I'd done. And so I appreciate that aspect of The Secret. And the biggest criticism I have of The Secret is it's focused on, if you just think about these things, it changes everything. That to me, there's a generation of people who never made the connection that, listen, you create. Let's get into manifesting really quickly. You want to manifest something, you want a thing to happen, create that vision, visualize it. We are creative, imaginative people. Visualize it, that's great. And you have to take a step towards it every single day so that whatever is out there that you believe in, God, the universe, your own creation, I don't give a shit what it is, that thing can see, for lack of a better word, and not that I think they see, but bear with me, the metaphor, can see that you are serious about moving towards that thing.
Ideas don't work unless I do. That's it. That's what I know. I mean, yes, like daydream is what I used to call manifesting, right? I've often said they've robbed me of my daydreams because now they're telling me how to daydream. Yeah. Just follow this 10-step process. Yeah. And if you do it wrong, then you're going to attract the wrong things. Like, I mean, geez, like I just want to sit and think about, this is what I want to create. And from there, I'll do something about it. And I know not everyone can mobilize. I understand why we have ways of inspiring ourselves, books that help us with, the foundation of getting started, or working with coaches. Yeah. But, still you got to do the work.
Okay. To use the example of working with a coach, I think me working with you and saying to you, okay, I want to act, I want to play bigger. Yeah. But then to do the things that we were talking about is, meeting the universe halfway. Yeah. Because they know know Susan's got some big dreams.
Who are they?
The unseen forces.
Okay. Are they people?
No. Are not they like us? We're not. No.
It's just energy.
People.
It's energy. We're all energy. Is it energy?
The energetic.
What do you what image of them
I don't know.
do you have in your mind?
I don't know what you picture, Celine, or whatever.
No, I'm asking you.
Yeah. And then I'm saying, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know. I just feel like there is magic swirling around. Does it look like stuff swirling? It doesn't look like anything to me. I know I have this trust that there's more going on than what we can see.
Okay.
So it really is.
I have no problem with that. Yeah. When I hear they are watching,
I know.
We have listeners who are like, I don't get it. And it's my job to say to you,
totally.
What does that look like then? Tell me what they are.
Because I've been talking
in your
like
mind. Because I don't think just because you say it makes it right. I don't know if they exist. I might have a deep belief in something, but I'm asking, when you say they, being the universe, and that they're paying attention and they're meeting you halfway, someone's got to ask, well, who then? Yeah. What is the they?
Yeah. Or I can even call it life.
Sure. Okay.
You meet life halfway.
Yeah. Okay.
There's just some kind of energetic.
You think if you put something in motion, it's like kinetic energy. An object in motion stays in motion. If you get something going, then there's possible momentum to keep it going.
Well, I think
unless you hit a block.
Yeah. Well, and I think that momentum's a really interesting thing to talk about, because it is about building momentum, and we think that. And I'm going to loop this back, but we think that if I'm confident, I'm going to do the things that build the momentum. And the reality is that you do the things that build the momentum, and that is what builds confidence. And so what you want to be doing is building the momentum in the right in the right direction for you, by the way. This is not that there's a right direction in general. Whatever is right for you in the moment, you want to be building the momentum in that way.
Because the momentum would be like what? It would be like the accomplishments, which leads to the self-esteem.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, the accomplishments, the things that you're doing, that you're checking off, that builds the confidence, that then gets you to that point where you've manifested the thing that you want to manifest, because it's been done in a certain direction with a vision at the end of it.
Because we're raising our vibrational energy.
There you go.
And energy attracts like energy. So as your energy is raised, so then you are attracting then higher vibrational things.
Is there something in particular that I can eat to raise my vibration?
Well, you can definitely drink more coffee. That'll get you revved up.
I'm just wondering, like, how do I raise my vibration?
Well,
There
How do you do it?
there are schools of thought out there, whether you subscribe to them or not, that will tell you it is about the quality of the thoughts that you think.
Yes.
The quality of the actions you take, the quality of how you take care of your body, what you put into your body. So it doesn't mean you have to eat certain things, but like maybe
I was being a little facetious there. You know that.
Maybe don't like only eat processed crap all the time.
Yeah,
so
if you're
not
eating like
nourishing
bags
your
of chips
body.
every day, your vibration might not be that high.
Right.
Because you're not really
there
going to be
are-
that motivated to actually be in motion.
Right.
And that probably would help to
You're
some
not
degree.
taking good care of your body, the
Yeah.
quality of the people that you spend time with, right? Don't, I know for me, and this was not necessarily to raise my vibes, but at a certain point in my life, I recognized that I had a number of people in my life that weren't right for me. There's nothing wrong. They're lovely humans, but I was like, this is not the kind of conversation I want to be having.
Yeah.
I'm not super interested in this stuff. They're not, they are stuck. They are negative. They don't want to get out of that. They're in that fixed mindset. And I was like, they're not my people. And so I actively sought out different people and, call it raising your vibes, but it does change the quality of your life and your energy and whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So
Cool. Thank you.
is there any message or mantra or concept from the self-help world that makes you cringe?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I will say that as much as I believe in manifesting with action involved,
Yeah.
when people talk about manifesting just as in like, I'm going to think of a thing and it's going to happen, that makes me crazy.
What about
Crazy.
everything happens for a reason? How do you feel about that one?
I think everything happens and we give it a reason.
Yes. Oh, that's
Right? Like, I don't think so. Yes, sure. Everything happens for a reason because you're going to find a reason in everything happening.
Yes. That's
So-
what we do.
Yeah.
We reason.
Yeah.
That's the human gift that I think puts us above maybe animals.
Yeah.
Is we reason. I don't think they do.
Well, as Brene Brown says, we're a meaning-making
Yeah.
species.
Well, that's just, yes. And that's some of the power in it. So when we say everything happens for a reason, one of the things that I hate that people say, and it's often after a tragedy or something has gone wrong, is like, this too shall pass. You'll be fine. You're not given any burden that you can't bear.
Right.
Okay. Like, sure, because you will survive it. Therefore, technically, you're not given any burden you can't bear, but it still sucks. And it's a terrible thing to say to people. And it's like, the other thing I hate is when people go, it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
It is what it is. Stop.
Really?
Everyone needs to stop saying that.
I know. Like, what does that even
can
mean?
I just defend that for just 1 second?
Please.
Yeah.
It is what it is really kind of a mantra that summarizes the power of seeing clearly, observing life without a story.
I think accepting what is a little bit different than it is what it is. I think it is what it is feels a little dismissive or curt or something, whereas accepting what is just a better language around that. If you're seeing them as the same thing, I don't know.
But I think the actual phrase, it is what it is encouraging people to see it, take it in without any narrative, any story, opinion, judgment, whatever you want to call it, without meaning. It is what it is. So get out of the story and see it clearly. I don't know. That's
Can I challenge you on that?
Here we go. This takes me back.
It's not my
Anyway,
turn.
that's why it doesn't actually grate on me.
Well,
for
and
me.
so it's not, I don't think you're wrong, right? It's not, but here's where I would challenge you. When we say it is what it
Good
is.
to be back here with you, Celine. Okay.
When you say it is what it is, you are basically assigning the thing that is the inability to change. It comes from a fixed mindset place. When you're saying, it's like me looking at you and going, well, you just are, you are who you are, right? It kind of means you're not going to change. This is the way it is. Full stop. There's no acknowledgement of a potential, which is why I don't like it.
Oh, okay. You know what? That I understand. I was thinking that you were framing it, Susan, in the accepting what is, but you were saying it just is.
Okay.
But I understand that the is what it is basically saying Celine, you're saying it's like
we're gonna.
Yeah, it's stuck.
It's stuck. Yeah. Okay.
This is what it is.
Oh, we're looking at it very differently. I'm looking at it as emphasizing the neutrality of everything, right? Nothing comes to us with a tag attached saying I am good or bad or delightful, terrible, right? So it is what it is. It's just encouraging us to really just see it without any value or give it, or seeing it and not giving it any value. Anyway, that's interesting.
But this is the great thing about having these conversations.
Yeah.
Is you get to have different perspectives. Because we all have stories and experiences and have read different things and think different things and have different whatevers. So we're not always going to have the same perspective. And this is good because people will be on different sides of things.
Yep, for sure. Now, just curious, have you ever done anything else in terms of personal growth, like retreats or courses or, sitting with a shaman or getting ayahuasca?
I mean, I haven't done ayahuasca. My mom's best friend is a shaman, so I have the benefit of just getting to hang out with a shaman. Does that count?
Yeah,
but truly,
sure.
I have done retreats. I've led retreats. I have done retreats myself. I've participated in them. I've been part of coaching groups. I've been part of entrepreneur groups. I've done tons of trainings, some specialized, some much broader. But yeah, absolutely. I a lot of them have either been specifically for professional development. So I'm training on this thing to learn this thing, or it's been, I want a different perspective on my own mindset or what's going on for me. And I'll do a retreat.
Do you find that there's exceptional value in those sorts of retreats and stuff?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Celine, is self-help helping?
Sometimes.
Well, okay. Do you think there could be any downfall to self-improvement? Do you think there's... is this a double-edged sword in some way?
Yes.
We sign up for the retreat. We go to the conference.
Yeah.
We attend the seminar, the workshop, whatever. And so we're striving to be better in some way. Do you think that's a double-edged sword? Is there any downfall to this?
Yes. And I don't think it... There you go. I don't think it comes from striving to be better. I don't think that... I am not a person, and I get that there's people out there who are, I'm not a person who thinks there's anything wrong with saying, here's an opportunity for me to grow and be more of the person I want to be. Call that better. I don't have a problem with that. My personal thing is I always want to improve. I don't want to be stuck. So that is not my issue with this. My issue is going to that conference, going to that event, going to reading the book, and you're on a high at the end of it. And you are like, this is going to change my life. This is everything. Look at how great that person on stage is doing. Look at how it changed the author's everything is going to be amazing. And then 3 weeks later, you're in a slump because none of that shit happened for you.
Yeah.
Oh, the mighty have fallen.
And that is what is so dangerous to me. And it's one of the reasons that I love coaching, not only being coached, but doing the coaching myself, is because it helps create momentum. And that's what's lacking from so many of these things. It makes you real high. It hits all that dopamine and all that good stuff that makes you really excited and feel like you can take over the world. And then there's no momentum built for you to sustain it.
Yeah.
And
because it's habit
crash.
building. You're trying to build the habits that get you towards all of that good stuff you're looking for.
And you're going to hit setbacks. You're going to hit there's going to be a point where you're like, oh, this didn't go my way. If you don't have that accountability and someone or some group, and it doesn't have to be a coach, there's lots of ways to do this, that is helping you through that, then that stops you. And now you're in a shame spiral because you're not as good as that other person. There's something wrong with me because, name your guru was able to do it and I haven't been able to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, we just hate ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we've fallen short.
Yep.
Well, yeah. You'd be amazing to work with. If someone's interested in working with you, where can they find you?
They can go to my website, which is slightly out of date currently, but check it out anyways. It's revisionary.ca.
I thought it looked very nice.
Oh, thank you. It'll look better when I get around to actually updating my poor web designer's needs from me because I'm not there yet. And I'm on Instagram and
as long as they can find you and have a conversation with you, that's all that's needed.
And you host a podcast.
I do. So I have currently, because of Corona times.
That just sounds like we should be in Mexico.
It does.
That's right. If only.
It's Corona time.
Right. I have a podcast called Leading Through Crisis, and it's really just leadership, conversations around leadership in challenging times. because people are looking for different sources of information and hearing things that are not negative all the time, but really like, how can you do this? And then I also host a podcast on Canada's Podcast Network, which is talking to entrepreneurs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you should.
Pretty
Yes.
big deal. Well, it's time.
It's time.
It's time, Celine. I know you're so excited to take part in this here at the Pod Plant with us. It's time to play that game that no one else is playing for good reason. Name
that
Guru. Yes, this is when we read 3 self-help quotes to each other and we try to identify who the hell said it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so if you think
Yeah,
you
Celine.
know the quote,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
think you know the author of the quote,
We will take
please
your help.
jump in.
Yeah, well,
Should we all have a little buzzer sound? Like mine's going to be like, whack, whack. What's yours? Oh, wait, whoops, got her.
Yeah.
Susan,
All right.
do you want to
That's
step up
great.
for a sec? What's yours? Okay.
Okay, since no one's going for the traditional buzz and I will get none of
Okay.
these, I'm going to go with bzz.
Okay.
Nice. All right. So who should begin? Who's going to begin?
Sure, you go, Fanson. You've got your phone ready. It's at the ready.
It's where I read them from.
Oh yeah, you're not texting.
I'm not calling somebody. Okay. A champion is afraid of losing. Everyone else is afraid of winning.
Okay, this is where we have to just do a little digging right now, Celine.
Is it a sports coach?
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
It's someone in sports.
Yeah.
Okay. What
Wayne
sport?
Gretzky.
No.
Damn it.
You didn't.
Can we get
there
the
was no
sport?
buzzer.
Can we get the sport?
If I give you the sport, you'll just be able to guess.
And we just wouldn't want that, hey?
I mean, that will not help me much, but maybe you.
It involves a net and a racket.
All right. Well, let's see. I don't know.
A champion is afraid of losing. Everyone else is afraid of winning.
Serena Williams.
Nope, you didn't buzz. Where's your buzz?
See?
Where's your buzzer? Where's your buzzer?
Perp, perp.
Susan? Susan?
Serena Williams?
No. I'll tell you. It's Billie Jean King.
Ah. Good out. All right.
Goodo.
Pip. Cheerio. Giddo. All right. So I have a theme.
Okay. Of course you do.
And mine are life coaches, turn speakers, authors. Okay. So more on the famous life coach, leadership coach end of things. Okay. Here we go. No matter how difficult and painful it may be, nothing sounds as good to the soul as the truth. Now, this life coach is famous because of Oprah. She wrote, I think she might actually still write, she still writes an article in the O Magazine every month. She's written a lot of books. Little woo-woo, more of the spiritual side.
We're just
Still waiting for some weird sounds to come out of your mouth. Let's see. What other?
Female life.
Oh yeah,
coach,
female.
Oprah.
Yeah. Has the initials MB.
Maria Bamford.
She's very funny though.
She is.
All right.
She'd be a hilarious life coach.
Martha
Beck. Martha Beck. Both of us at the same time blew that one.
Wow.
I should have just said and.
How many clues was that?
Wow.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Yes.
The greatest accomplishment is not in never falling, but in rising again after you fall.
Author. Is it an author?
It's a coach.
Of sports again? Is it sports?
Yeah.
Okay. Fanson, what sport? What sport?
Football.
Oh, I don't know if I know any. There's one sport I just do not pay attention to.
Ditka? Is he
No. I didn't hear a buzzer.
Oh, great. Well, good. Then that doesn't count.
That doesn't count. So you can go
Tom
again.
Brady?
No, he's a player.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't know a football coach except Pinball Clemens.
No. Vince Lombardi.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know that name.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Too often.
His team's a team that he coached has had to change their name based on
I saw this
the New
recently.
Times.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
New Times.
Yeah,
Time-
the Corona Times.
Corona times. That's right.
All right. Too often, when embarking on a journey, we focus on what needs to get done without looking at who we need to become in order to get there.
I just wanted to do that.
Sure. Okay, so I think she was a big deal more like around the 90s, maybe around the millennium. Her first name is Cheryl
Crow. I feel like I'm playing word association.
She's not a huge... she had her day. Anyway, her name
Was
is...
it one day?
Cheryl Strayed.
Her name is Cheryl Richardson.
Oh, I've never
Ooh,
Yeah,
I think I went to grade 9 with her.
Google her. She was a big deal. I don't think she's really, Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I know.
What did she say? Let's-
I've read one of her books.
All right, let's give her day one more time. What's the quote?
Too often, when embarking on a journey, we focus on what needs to get done without looking at who we need to become in order to get there. That was a good
I
quote.
think you said it better during the
yeah.
episode. You said something like that.
Sure.
Okay, ready?
Who said it best?
Yeah.
All right.
An ounce of behavior is worth a pound of words.
Okay. Let's narrow it down for a second. Are we in the sports
Coach?
arena?
Nope.
Just like a life coach?
Nope.
Jesus.
What kind of coach?
Yeah. Celine, you start digging because I'm getting tired over here.
An acting coach.
Oh.
I know there's like a famous acting coach whose name I don't know.
Okay. well, that's
really
halfway there.
Yeah, that's right. I know of them. That
Okay.
counts as something.
His initials are SM.
Stanley Mendez.
Nope. But I like that.
I don't know. My brain's kind of mushy
Where's your buzzer?
at this point.
Where's your buzzer?
But I'm here to say that I don't know. It's getting warm in this fucking room again.
Yes, it's Sanford Meisner.
You
Great
know,
acting
it's so funny. I actually,
You were going to say that?
No, but I was trying to. There's one where there's an eyes. There was I did have that thought. Eyes. There's some eyesing something.
Okay.
Anyway. All right.
Well, is that it?
No, I got one more.
Oh,
dude.
last week I thought you still had more, and now you have more to go.
Okay. And this guy is Canadian.
Ooh.
Your I can is more important than your IQ.
Ooh.
He wrote The Monk Who Sold
Robin
His Ferrari.
Sharma.
That's right, Celine Williams. Well done.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Wow.
wonderful. Oh yeah, a little bit of a junkie over here for
feel
sure.
I should just disqualify myself after that. That's amazing.
I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't know any sports coaches' names, so I got one out
That's
of all of them.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm getting tired. I'm getting warm.
Yeah, it's warm.
Yeah. Well,
So before it gets any hotter,
exactly.
why don't we
Thank Celine Williams very much for being here with us today.
executive life coach and cultural strategist.
Thank you so much, Celine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
And you're Susan Stewart.
And you're Kelly Fanson.
And we're still a hot mess. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Purple Jade Wellness Center, for your support. Thanks also to Monkey Junk, the Juno Award-winning blues band consisting of some of the best people and musicians we know. We'd also like to thank and give a 3-minute hug, because self-help says that's more meaningful, to the Pod Plant and Mike Wixon.
And hey, why not subscribe or follow our show? And please, for the love of Oprah, give us a rating and review on your iPhone podcast app. And if you're into social media, you can find us on Instagram at Still a Hot Mess Podcast and like us on Facebook at Still a Hot Mess. And thank you, Fanson.
And thank you, Susan.
You make a mess of me.